You seem very happy right now. What have you found? Holmes asked. You don't like to be wrong, do you, Holmes? Please come with me and I will show you, he said. We all went into the house together. McFarlane came in this way after he killed Oldacre, he said. Look here. He pointed to a place on the wall. It was a bloody thumbprint. We tested this thumbprint this morning after we took samples from John McFarlane. It is a perfect match, exactly the same, Lestrade said. Do you see that closes the case? Yes, it does, I said. Yes, it does, said Holmes, smiling. He was secretly laughing at Lestrade. Who discovered this thumbprint? Holmes asked. It was the old woman who works for Oldacre, Lestrade. She found it this morning. And you are sure it was there yesterday? Holmes asked. Lestrade looked at Holmes like he was mad. I didn't understand the question either. Mr. Holmes, Lestrade began, do you really think that McFarlane got out of prison to come here and put his thumbprint on the wall here? I am very busy and must go. I have to write my report on this case. He left through the sitting room and closed the door, leaving Holmes and I standing there. Just what do you know about the thumbprint? I asked Holmes. Well, I know it wasn't there yesterday to begin with, he said. I looked at that wall very carefully. The police didn't look as carefully as I did. They are not the best detectives. Let's go for a walk in the garden, Watson. I didn't know how the thumbprint could have got there, but I followed Holmes into the garden. He looked at everything outside the house. He then went back inside and looked again in every room. We looked in every cupboard and in every passage. There are some very interesting facts here, Watson. Lestrade thinks he is finished and is better than me. He enjoyed telling me about the thumbprint. I am going to have some fun with him now, he said. We went into the sitting room where Lestrade was writing. Isn't a bit early to be writing the report, Lestrade? Holmes asked. Lestrade knew Holmes well and also knew he must have most important information. What do you have? Tell me. Holmes, he asked. Well, there is someone very important in this case that you need to talk to, Holmes said. Who is this person? Lestrade asked. I can tell you, but first tell me this. Are there any policemen here? Holmes asked. Yes, there are 3 outside, Lestrade answered. Do they have very loud voices? Holmes asked. Are they strong men? Yes, they are strong, but why do you need them to have loud voices? He asked. You will see, Holmes said. Please ask one of the policemen to bring some old newspapers and the other 2 to bring a lot of water. After the policeman brought all the things, Holmes asked us to go upstairs to the top of the house. Lestrade and his policemen were smiling because they thought Holmes was mad. Sherlock Holmes went to the end of the passage and put the newspapers on the floor. He then asked me to open a window and set the newspaper on fire. After I did what he asked and the papers started to burn, he said, Now everyone shout, fire with me. We all began to shout, fire, fire. Just as we stopped, a wall at the end of the passage opened and a little man ran out. He was running very quickly. Holmes told me that I could pour water on the fire to put it out. Then he said, This is Mr. Jonas Oldacre. Lestrade was shocked and said, Where have you been the last 2 days, Mr. Oldacre? I haven't done anything wrong, Oldacre said. He laughed, but it was clear he was nervous and afraid of Lestrade. Lestrade was angry. You haven't done anything wrong? You almost put a man in prison for murder. He was almost hanged by the neck. It was only a joke, Oldacre said. Take this man away, Lestrade said, where he won't be playing any more jokes. Holmes, Lestrade said, thank you so much for helping me. I hope I was not rude to you early today. I am so sorry and thought the case was finished. I am so glad McFarlane was not hung for a crime he didn't do. I owe you so much. Don't worry, no one will ever hear of this. You can change your report, and it is necessary to say anything about what I did, Holmes said. Don't you want people to know about your amazing skills? Lestrade asked. I don't need that, Holmes said. I am happy with myself and my work. Now let's go see where the little man was living. At the end of the passage, there was a small room with little furniture inside it. On the table was some food and water along with some papers. It was impossible to see the room when the door was shut. It looked just like a normal wall. Since Oldacre was a builder, it was easy for him to build this hidden room. Holmes said he only needed the old woman to help him with his plan. When I examined the house, I noticed that this passage was shorter than the one below it. That is when I knew he was hidden somewhere in the house, he continued. I can see about the passage, but how did you know he was in the house? Lestrade asked. It was the thumbprint. I knew it wasn't there yesterday. I examined the house carefully and didn't see it. This means someone had to put it there last night, Holmes answered. But McFarlane was in prison, I said. How did it get there? I think it was when Oldacre and McFarlane were working on the papers. They used a lot of red wax to close the buckets. Oldacre asked McFarlane to do the job so he could get a clear copy of his thumbprint. He used that copy and probably his own blood to make the print on the wall, Holmes explained. That is truly amazing work, Holmes, Lestrade said. But why did he do all this? That is very simple. Oldacre was still angry and young McFarlane's mother. He wanted to marry her many years ago and she refused. You couldn't have known that, Lestrade, because you never went to Blackheath to ask questions. Holmes continued. Oldacre was very clever and dangerous. He waited a long time to make Mrs. McFarlane pay for refusing him. He finally found a way to hurt her by making the law hang her son. He also would make some money for himself. How would Oldacre make any money from this? Lestrade asked. I don't think this mystery man Cornelius ever existed. Oldacre had money problems, but he made it look like he paid this Mr. Cornelius a lot of money. Then later he would actually change his name to Cornelius after he disappeared. He used the will to make it look like McFarlane would want to kill him. The fire would make it look like there was no dead body. It was a clever idea. After Mr. Oldacre was thought dead, then he would move away to another part of England and become Mr. Cornelius with all the money. Let's go find out for sure. We all went to the room where the police were keeping Jonas Oldacre. When we came in, he insisted he only did everything as a joke. He never meant to hurt anyone, especially poor Mr. McFarlane. No one will believe that, Oldacre, Lestrade. You will go to the prison for this. Holmes smiled and said, I think you will lose all the money of Mr. Cornelius also. Oldacre became angry and shouted, "I will kill you, Sherlock Holmes." Holmes just smiled and said, "I have heard that before. I think for a while I don't have to worry because you will be in prison. I do have one question though. You burned something that looked like a dead person or animal. What was it? A rabbit?" Oldacre would not say anything. Holmes smiled again and said, "It seems he doesn't want to answer us, Watson. When you write this story, we can assume it was a rabbit. It really isn't important. You can name it The Story of the Norwood Builder and put rabbits as the dead animal."